at the worst kind of galaxy brain meme that you could find. There he is. So there's that. There's a few other things, but I really just want to talk to you guys and see what the hell's going on. Tomorrow should be a great night. We've got what do we have going on tomorrow night? Tomorrow, I think we're going back into hidden technology disclosure stuff for a little bit, at least in the first half, because Ashton Forbes, Malaysia Flight 370, Ashton Forbes is coming back on, and I think that tonight he might be interviewing Salvatore Pais. And if you don't know who Salvatore Pais is, or if you don't remember him, that is the guy that Vice article or Wired or something was all anyway. It came out in like 2022 or 3 about the Pais effect. It was all a part of how the Navy had really tipped their cap to this idea that anti-gravitic craft, they were not necessarily relying on propulsion activity, but they were actually displacing the atmosphere around the craft to be able to slip through air, water, whatever it is, with absolutely no physical restraints. And I'm talking about the laws of physics, which would account for why that these craft are going like in excess of 13,000 miles an hour, and they're making right angle turns or 180s and stuff that would kill anybody under those circumstances otherwise. And I think that Ashton is interviewing him today, which will be really interesting, because then tomorrow I get to ask him some stuff there. That'll be good. Well, that'll be really good. And then there you have it. So Dilley tonight, Ashton Forbes tomorrow. We got this really cool guy coming in on Wednesday night. His name is Matt Dawson. He's an extreme adventure athlete. I think Jay Gulanello is going to swing by as well, just to hang out and be in on that conversation. And because, last couple of years, Jay's been hanging out with us on Thanksgiving Eve. So I said, dude, come by. There's got to be a human health angle to an extreme adventure athlete, which I know some of you guys and gals really, you're in the deep end of some of that extreme sports stuff. I'd love to know about it. I'd love to know about it with you all. And I have some ideas for topics over the course of the holidays and into the winter for things like that. We're going to get back into a lot of open lines kind of topical evenings, because that's the best, especially on a cold night in January and February. Oh yeah. Okay. So that's all. That's all I got for you right there. And I hope that many of you are calling in tonight. When you do call in, write it down on a little Post-it pad, or send yourself a text, or whatever the hell it is. And this is the line that we're going to have open later on. 914-200-0269. And later on when we call in, I want to give away some stuff. I've got a mini version of Donald Trump's Think Like a Champion. It's an actual book. It's the whole book. Donald Trump's Think Like a Champion. So you're going to get that. And also, what is this? This is Spygate playing cards. We still have a couple of decks of these. This is the old 2017, 18, 19 Spygate playing cards with all of the key players of Spygate back then. So I'm going to be giving these away tonight. Tomorrow we'll do the last round of silver, and I got a whole bunch of stuff I'm going to be giving away to you guys. I had another thing over here that we're going to be giving away on Black Friday that I did not bring in. You're really going to like it. It's Christmassy and it's patriotic. Lauren found it. I'll bring that in tomorrow. Totally forgot tonight. But I'm like going to be like Joker at the end of Batman. Just going to be giving away shit. And I'm not going to gas you at the end of it either. You're just going to get stuff. And no green gas. Okay. All right, let's get started, shall we? Yes. All right, first one up is from Breitbart. Now, this is crazy. This is some crazy stuff right here. This is the headline: Trans Montana lawmaker, we're every bit as biologically female as cis women. And you know who would agree with him? Neil deGrasse Tyson and other weirdos out there, galaxy brain weirdos. Now, this is just wrong. It's wrong. And it's not as if people didn't have these issues 25 years ago. It's not as if these issues they weren't being promoted. They weren't being just mashed into the brains of young, impressionable kids from the time that they are just, getting out of diapers in school by their whacked out, zonked out Zoloft teachers. But again, being forced to just have to make very basic, firm statements about the reality of things. Call us a bigot, be damned. I'm not saying, hey, snap your fingers and snap out of it and stop being emotionally disturbed by one thing or another, or you leave your traumatic past behind. I'm actually very sensitive to people's issues. Very sensitive. But, I mean, what are you inviting? What are you inviting when you put this out there? A Montana lawmaker who identifies as a progressive bisexual trans woman is claiming that men who say that they are transgender women are every bit as biologically female as real women. Can you imagine saying this? Can you imagine saying that out loud? Representative Zoe Zephyr says in a tweet from a couple days ago, I literally just got out of meetings with members of Congress and used the bathroom on my way out. Trans women are women, full stop. We are every bit as biologically female as cis women. Listen, it's not, you want to double down, fine. But the culture is trying to go a different way. And in a very... The current is taking us in a different path, all right? And it's not about hunting people down or ostracizing them, but this can't be allowed anymore. Those statements cannot be, not that they can't be said, they can't be enabled and they can't be backed up. That is sedition against entire future generations of Americans. I mean, that's awful, So that's what we can't. It's just the contrast is all screwed up. Now here's to kind of dovetail onto that from the Telegraph. A lot of people hyperventilating about this one today. Donald Trump to, quote, expel all transgender people from the military. And I'm saying to myself, okay, I guess that's good. You think about the people who are out there saying, they're trying to find every red flag reason why Americans should have a harder and harder time to own firearms for self-defense or whatever the hell the reason is, just because it's their natural right. You think about all the reasons they say, oh, well, we have to keep it out of people in the wrong hands and this and that, high-stress situations, felons, people with mental illnesses, all that stuff. And then you go and you take people who, when they look in the mirror, believe that they were born into the wrong body, and you want to put them into combat zones, you want to put them under that stress, you want to give them the most effective killing technology in the world. Where is the consistency there? And people ask those very basic questions, of course, and they don't get anything but, oh, bigot wants all the transgenders out of the military. Even then, I was like, oh, what does that mean? 100? No, 15,000. 15,000. I mean, that's what's startling. That's the startling thing about this. The Telegraph wants you to be startled that that may be asked to leave. Reported move could mean the loss of 15,000 personnel at a time when the U.S. is struggling to recruit. I mean, if that's what you got to do to get people to wear the uniform again, then it's not worth it. Secondly, you'd have no problem recruiting if our culture was on the opposite side of this. You'd have no problem recruiting. And if people believed that Congress was worth a shit and that our leadership actually cared about preserving life and using the military as a last-ditch lethal effort to preserve our lives here at home, not gallivanting around the world, arriving at the beck and call of every precious ally of ours, all the precious allies who need us to show up. It's got to end. It's got to end. You won't have a recruiting crisis if things ended and the military actually served what it's supposed to be serving. undermine readiness. He says some military charities criticized the proposals on Sunday night. Quote, should a trans ban be implemented from day one of the Trump administration, it would undermine the readiness of the military and create an even greater recruitment and retention crisis, not to mention signaling vulnerability to America's adversaries. Can you imagine Rachel Brenden, executive director of Modern Military Association of America, had the nerve to say that taking all of the gender-confused elements out of the nation's military would signal vulnerability to the rest of the world.
Ridiculous.
Truly ridiculous. That's just incredible. Undermine the readiness. You know what would undermine readiness? 15,000 members of our military, healing from wounds, from removing parts or adding parts on, like it's some Frankenstein movie, or going through hormonal swings because they don't have the dosage right on their patches yet, or anything like that, and to have to do all that stuff and in war zones. Of course, they would say, well, many of these people are in advisory roles and technology office and IT and all that. Oh, so then there you go. It doesn't matter. There's always a pivot. And let's just see how it happens. Let's see how it works. Now, here's one last thing I wanted to throw out there, because I don't understand how this flies, what this even means. But I got this from the Telegraph as well. Death of mistletoe. Work parties ditch Christmas tradition over abuse fears. Custom of kissing under festive foliage in decline because of wokery, says auctioneer. I don't know what let's keep going. Kissing under the mistletoe at a Christmas party is dying out because workers fear being accused of abuse, an auctioneer of the plant has claimed. Of course they would. I don't know why. Does anybody out there make out with their fellow employees at company Christmas parties? Do you casually kiss on the mouth your coworkers if you happen to pass through a doorway at the same time that has mistletoe hanging? Does that even happen? I don't know how you can call this something that is being killed off because of woke culture. When was that ever appropriate? The tradition of kissing under the foliage took off in the Victorian era, but the custom has waned in recent years. This year at Britain's only annual mistletoe auctions in Tenbury Wells, Worcestershire, it is expected that only a quarter as much mistletoe will be on offer compared to past decades. Well, I always thought that it was just decorative. We used to have the plastic mistletoe, and it was just one of those things where, we just knew what the reference was. It was just decoration. Nobody was kissing under it. Maybe I would say, Mom, and kiss my mom on the cheek or something when I was 5 or 6. But that has never been one. I never felt compelled to make out with anybody because I was near that plant. So I'm sorry for anybody whose holiday plans might have just gotten ruined by this, but on we go. Okay, 7:13. Let's get this one kicked off. Dilley should be showing up pretty soon, and away we go.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's
Okay. right, ladies and gentlemen, we got some time with a good friend. Hey, listen, he's a political commentator. He's a life coach, actually. I know some of you are like, Dilley's a life coach, but he's so abrasive. I'm scared of him. Sometimes you need some tough love. What do you want me to say? And he is he's the king of all things, memes. This is a big, listen, Dilley's here right now. Dilley, how you feeling?
What up, man? I'm doing good, dude. I'm feeling great.
Dude, I mean, listen, this is a big year. And the big year for you especially, but for all of us. I mean, as far as retrospective goes, I almost just want to throw it at you and say, tell us how 2024 happened. Give us from your vantage point, because you were in a lot of places. You were getting torn apart in the New York Times. You were all over the place, man.
Yeah, it was a crazy ass year. Started at the beginning of the year. I mean, I literally started my year in the first 2 weeks out in Iowa in a blizzard, trolling Ron DeSantis with Miguel Lafornia and Matt Kim and the rest of Team Trump. And it started there, and then it ended in West Palm Beach, Florida, at an election night party, and watching Donald Trump be announced as the winner at like 2:30 in the morning. So yeah, I would say it's been one of the crazier years of my life.
No, it's nuts, dude. I mean, we had a banner, we had a big marathon broadcast that night, and it was around 2:30 in the morning. I probably texted you around then, because when they started cutting over, all the streams started cutting over to Mar-a-Lago or wherever you were. I said, "Oh shit, there's Dilley." I mean, you're on TV, so that's pretty interesting there, man. And oh man, okay, well, I mean, we had. You think about all the stuff that's been glossed over too. Just there's the assassination attempts. There's just so much. I don't even know.
Yeah, it's a lot, dude. It's a lot because it was an avalanche of not just political occurrences, but cultural occurrences. And so much so that you couldn't even really digest one thing before the next thing was happening. I mean, when we think about Donald Trump being a attempted assassination on his life, you're not even sort of through the period of comprehending it. And then you have Biden drop out of the race days later. And then you have the RNC convention, which again had its own narrative in fascination. So all of those things happen in like a 10-day window, right? Like they try to kill him on the 13th. Biden drops out days later or a day later, right? Like whatever it was. And then Joe drops, and then you have the RNC speech, and then Trump's right back out campaigning. And so there was never really a point where you stepped back collectively as a people and went, what the hell did we just see?
I know.
Right?
I know.
Who's on to the next thing? I mean, I've been living my life this way, Frank, for 2 straight years. I was at Mar-a-Lago when President Trump announced his presidential campaign run, November 15th, 2022. And then it's been every day up until about like 2 weeks ago.
And then there's the football. What's the football game? That was last year?
That was a year. That was 1 year ago this last weekend. Yeah. Saturday, 1 year ago on Saturday, Randy and myself, my wife and I, attended the South Carolina Clemson football game with President Trump in the booth as his guest, and got to hang out with the man and watch some football and talk some shit. So it was, I mean, that alone in your career is like, holy crap, did that just happen? But then to have, obviously, I've had so many other holy shit, did that just happen moments over the last 12 months. It's been a whirlwind, man. And not just for me personally, but for the entire country. Like, we're all still trying to drink from this fire hose.
Oh, yes. And then, you said something very important there. You're talking about cultural. And let's talk about that again. And let's start with you and the meme team there. Because, listen. Whenever I tell somebody, oh, who's your guest tonight? And I say Dilley, it's either, oh, yeah, or it's, okay, well, I'll tune in the second half when he's gone. Right. It's either one or the other. But here's the thing. You have your ways. Sometimes I have my opinions. I'm just like, come on, pull it back, man. Just pull it back a little bit. But culturally, here's something I saw on Zero Hedge today. Conducted from November 17th and 19th, there was a survey that was just conducted that revealed that 57% of Americans aged 18 to 29 now hold a favorable view of Donald Trump. marking a net favorability increase of 19 points in that demographic since YouGov poll on November 9th and November 12th. I'm just going to say, I mean, I know there's a lot of factors out there, but knowing you personally and knowing what you work on and to what level you work on it, the RNC is not capturing the attention of 18 to 29-year-olds. It's operations like yours who have captured the youth in ways that they relate to. It's not stiff. It's it may not be for everybody. It may be a little bit more smash mouth, but it's operations like yours that actually work that way. And maybe you can just talk about that, because the future is really about how do you let the young elephants, to say, into the tent.
Well, and yes, thank you, Frank. There's a couple things I'll bring you up to speed on. So that's just an article, right? And we appreciate articles. It's opinion piece. What they don't know is that when I was in Iowa and I was talking to campaign officials, they were like, "You destroyed DeSantis." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And you think it's rhetoric. And they go, no, you don't understand. We're polling on the ground, and the reason people aren't supporting him aren't our policy pushing, statements. It's not the policy agenda. And we're not hearing that people don't want Ron because of, issues he's had as governor. They are citing specific, like, commentary, social commentary and jokes from the memes. And so once you hear that and you go, they're polling and they're getting feedback that has nothing to do with any official campaign messaging, you realize you've infiltrated the culture. And that's where it gets kind of funny. I sat with somebody the other night. I don't want to say who it was, but it was somebody fairly powerful and very successful who would have access to data. And he goes, kind of played it cool when I met him, and he goes, and he almost like he didn't know who I was until maybe an hour after hanging out. And he's like, "Hey, that they say about 80% of the destruction of Ron DeSantis was the Dilley meme team." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, it was
Okay, I believe
about
it.
80%. So you figure 80% of the 300 million that guy blew through was blown trying to stop us from making fun of his stupid boots or the fact that he, would pick his nose and stuff, which is just amazing, right?
It really is. But dude, that's the whole point. Look, here's another example. They were I saw some of the really flailing ways that people were coping with the Trump win a few weeks ago. What it started out with was just like, he didn't campaign like Kamala did. He didn't raise the money that Kamala did. It's like you're still on that shit. Don't you remember 2016? That I think Hillary Clinton's campaign was the first $1 billion campaign. She spent over $1 billion to lose to a guy who raised and spent, I think, $400 million. And to think that money is going to be able, there's just no comparison to any kind of authentic, especially humor. Oh man, humor breaks it all up, and it's attractive. And
you know what it is too, Frank? At the end of the day, after all the woke crap, and you've like subjected to people all this stuff, people just wanted to be a part of something that felt cool again. So, and they didn't understand the power in that statement. Like, if your candidate is a fucking square, and we highlight that over and over, and people are so done letting weird losers run the country, and you hammer them into the dirt. And the thing is like, all these people will have an opinion of how I do things or how I speak or how the team operates, but you can't argue with the outcomes. So like, I started out in the corner of my bedroom 6 years ago and ended up at the victory party and next to Donald Trump at football games. And we ended up, demolishing Ron DeSantis. A guy spent $300 million and didn't win a single county in a presidential election. Not one county, forget a state. And so when you start looking at that and you go, okay, this was about something more. It wasn't just a referendum, I don't think, Frank, on Democrats and the way they've ruled. And it's not just a referendum on woke versus, non-woke or DEI. It was just a referendum on, we're done letting beta weirdos judge and run the country. We're done letting godless, weird people run the country in a way where we all know what they're doing is lame and stupid, but because of this collective fear that they had adopted, we allowed it. And so then when you get back to real simplicity and you allow somebody to make a decision quickly, which is, you don't want to hire that guy, he's fucking weird. And they're like, Yeah, he is kind of weird. I'm like, yeah, dude. I'm like, you're a pretty normal guy. I'm a normal guy. Don't you want to have like more normal people like us making decisions versus like this weirdo? And ultimately, it's a really simple sell to somebody. You go, so the more Donald Trump did retail politics on the street with people, and they saw him speak candid, and it went all it took was them being like, yeah, I just kind of like him, dude. At least he's not weird. And sometimes that's the decision you have to lead people to, especially when they are in a place where they're deciding between groceries and credit card bills and rent or mortgage. They don't have the time to dedicate to going through every single policy choice. And I think a lot of that stuff, the policy stuff that's so critical in this last election, really became window dressing. I think there was a lot of people that were just like, I just know that what we have allowed has not worked for my life, and therefore I'm not going to vote for it. And I think this election was over, Frank, in May. I actually don't think that the needle moved much in reality in those last 4 or 5 months. I think that people that were going to vote for Donald Trump, once they saw him stand up from being shot and they went, holy shit, he's a legend. I think that was the end of the election, and it wasn't going to matter who you put up on the Democrat side. Now, that won't be what you hear, because there's a lot of people whose entire livelihoods and financial stake futures are predicated on what they did in the last 90 days of the election. So there'll be a heavy push to say, no, what I did or what I said or the thing that I did in the last 90 days is what won it. But realistically, I think if you went and looked through the data as far back as May and June, you were looking at a 300, electoral vote win for Trump all the way back then. Donald Trump's final few months really was just survival. It was literally Survivor. Just survive and you're the next president. And there wasn't going to be any October surprises. They had deployed all of that.
Yeah. They tried the October surprises every month. I mean, and what bigger October surprise? You're dead. We killed you. I mean,
essentially,
where do you go? Where do you go from there when you attempt murder?
Right.
So
that was kind of it. Wasn't that like a real good indicator, Frank? It's like, oh my God, they try to kill him in July because they know they can't beat him in November. So
absolutely. Well, I mean, the whole point I'll never be convinced otherwise. It was Donald Trump was going to go down, and then I think that they were going to kill Joe Biden as well, to blame a MAGA supporter who was going to want revenge. Because obviously they said, okay, well, if Trump's not going to go away, at least right now, we're at least going to swap out Biden. Why the hell did Biden have to get cooed out of the White House or off the campaign, essentially out of the White House? Because who has been more irrelevant than Joe Biden since July? Who's
hard pressed?
Who's been more irrelevant in the world? I don't know.
You know what the crazy thing about that is, Frank? By saying that, and this is one of the things that, and I dare say that Joe understands this. I think that whoever's handling him understands it. Maybe his wife, maybe Hunter, as terrifying as that is. Them replacing Joe Biden actually did more to probably salvage, I don't want to call it a legacy, but whatever memory people might hold of that man. Kamala got left holding the bag, bro. Like, because of the optics where Joe is no longer relevant, he's off the campaign trail and he's just a doddering old man. And so then everything that's happened in this country since the moment Joe stepped aside, the country, whether they talk about it or not, holds Kamala Harris responsible, because she took up the mantle of, I'm the champion of the White House. And so now she gets to live with the memory of being the final image of that White House, which is why it's so funny that Joe has now acknowledged he will be at President Trump's inauguration, right, today.
Yeah.
So,
well, let me ask you about that, because before we start getting into other things, I want to talk about the internet, especially the platform.
Please,
especially the platform, Twitter, X. I mean, that's really when you were able to make your return to that. I can't imagine that you would have been nearly as successful without the conditions on Twitter changing. But before we get to that, you're talking about cultural shifts and all that, and people just very, all the superficial stuff, when we start getting to this point, goes away. For example, they completely overplayed what they believed was the importance of the abortion issue. They completely overestimated how important people thought that killing babies was versus being able to go out and spend less than $300 every 2 weeks on groceries.
Correct.
And but now you see things like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others removing pronouns from their bios. I don't see, I know that there are a lot of just really stupid people out there, but how can you even moderate yourself after going to the brink of oblivion, even with the idea that there is no such thing as sex or gender that can, everything is fluid. And how can you even moderate yourself like that? How can you remove the memory of where you have brought people the last 15 years with this, with the social deconstructionist bullshit? I don't get that at all.
Meaning, like, you think they're trying to salvage themselves?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. There's no way to moderate.
But the idea is there's a sucker born every minute. So for example, like Frank, when you've been doing this as long as you and I have, there are people that don't know there are rhinos right now doing this very thing, like rebranding right now. And there will be people that will stumble into social media, find an account, and start following it where that account did not exist to them prior to that moment. And once they've decided that they trust that account and like that account, that they're a fan of that account, all previous misgivings don't matter to that person anymore because they've decided they found some place that feels comfortable like home. And that works on left and right. So what that means is people are able to really pretty much rebrand and repackage, knowing that they only have to try, well, in politicians specifically, they only have to try to get your vote once every 2 years if you're in Congress, right? So AOC's like, I'm going to keep selling my last name. I'm going to keep selling the Latin aspect of my upbringing, if there was one any, and it's always going to play well in my district. And the radical weirdos that supported me before, I'm going to slowly I'm not going to disassociate and disavow. I'll just move on from them like they didn't exist. And as long as I'm still sharing core values of the Democrat Party that they agree with, they'll keep reelecting me. Mm-hmm. And that's what they do. And I think this is one of those situations where I actually don't fault people in a leadership role for doing this. I fault people in a follower role for not giving a shit about holding it accountable. Like, at some point, that's sort of on you to know who you're listening to and who you're watching and why that matters and why their history matters. But the cultural shift in the country, and going back to the Dilley meme team and what we did, Frank, we targeted two groups, Gen X and Gen Z. We wrote off millennials, and we already knew we had the vote of the boomers.
Why?
So it was really simple.
Real quick, why'd you write off the millennials?
Because they already had swallowed the bullshit, hook, line, and sinker. I looked at it just, and this is, what I do. I look at the culture and I went, so the reason, okay, for example, Frank, the reason they thought that like abortion was going to be a major issue is because the leadership among that campaign, the women, are millennial chicks that were all pro-abortion and probably not married, right? And they felt like they represented an entire segment of the population, which maybe they did or maybe they didn't. But I just felt like it was an unnecessary group to target for this particular type of messaging. I actually felt like the millennial messaging that was more effective was financial, because they were all either having to back burner buying homes or they were suffering through not being able to afford a family. Like, I felt like the millennials, that was going to be really a heavy economic pitch. And then the same thing with boomers, because they were fixed income, right? So inflation's like wiping them out. But from a cultural standpoint, I felt like the Gen X probably has the best grip on culture over the last 40 years, I would say, over every other generation. And it's not really close, to be honest with you. I think Gen X they are old enough to know and have a very firm grasp of what boomers thought was cool and what their grandparents thought was cool, but also young enough that they understand the current climate, because it hasn't changed that much from animated, shows and different like comedy of that variety. So for us, I felt like that was a neglected generation that would probably be most open to bringing back irreverence, because Gen X were hard as nails.
Interesting.
Like, so I knew we could make that sales pitch. And the thing was too, if you can sell to Gen X and you can sell to Gen Z, these two generations are related. They're usually the parents and the children. So what we found also was like, especially in a lot of this, like I said, like Rich Barris was just talking about this. Rich Barris, he's Gen Xer, right? Or close to it. I believe he's a Gen X, right?
I think he's close. He's a little bit
he's like
older
right
than
there.
me.
He's like a cusp like me. Like I'm 42, so I'm like right Gen X millennial right there, right? Yeah. So Barris is on a similar situation, and he just tweeted out the other night. He's like, my kids were the ones sending me Dilley meme team memes, and I was enjoying them, and so were they. And so that's where there was, for us tactically, that was the best formula for getting viral content with millions of plays. Frank, we did almost 1 billion plays, dude, in 2 years.
Dude, it can't be underscored enough. I was just reading an article, I forgot who sent it to me, about what the kind of impact that Barron Trump had on the Trump campaign, that he was actually the one feeding Donald, his father, hey, listen, these are the shows I'm listening to. He was the one that pretty much said, Rogan, obviously, but what's his name? Aiden, what's his name? Yeah, I mean, so that is
Aiden Ross, and then what was the
Ross.
other one he was talking about? Also, he had they had Trump go on with Theo Vaughn.
Yep, which were all fantastic, and the fact
home runs.
It was all home runs, and of course,
I'm sorry. Just side note: Theo Vaughn explaining cocaine to Donald Trump might be one of the funniest.
It was great.
Funniest things I have ever actually seen. He's like, "What's that like?" He's like, "Oh man, it's like being an owl."
See, that was the point. That was the thing about it. It wasn't because Theo Vaughn. I mean, he's got his ways about him. You hear him go on rants like that all the time. It's just his delivery is fantastic. But it was Trump was genuinely interested, and I think his genuine interest. He's like,
so does that feel good? No, it feels terrible. Then why do you do it?
I know that in particular. I may have to go back and listen to that podcast again now, because
just the clips of that though, like the brilliance of putting that out. And the thing is they let Trump be Trump finally. Like they let him cook, man. And when he got to cook, there was never a doubt he was going to win. And he won more than that. He won the culture. And I think that's where you look around and you go, you got your culture back, and everything politically is downstream from that. And that's why, like, when he secured Elon Musk, Elon is such a culture junkie that he's literally reinforcing to the culture that just was reestablished, I've got your back. And so then people are more emboldened, more empowered, they're more vocal, and the biggest thing that they're not anymore, they're not afraid, dude. That's the biggest thing. People are like, to hell with you, I love Trump, and you're whatever. You can say it how it is, and there is a way larger acceptance of that sort of directness that wasn't there anymore. And I think that's where the left is cooked, Frank. Like they are actually cooked. If Trump gets in there and does any semblance of investigation into voter fraud, that might be the end of the Democrat Party for decades, dude. Like we might be waiting at least a generation or two for Dems to start winning races in any significant way, because it's still the only way that they were able to collect House seats was all of the races that were like, oh, just kidding, you thought you won that Senate seat, but like 5 days later we're giving it to the Democrat. And you're like, really?
I know. They're still counting right now.
Right.
I mean, and that's something that's just incredible. And to the whole cultural shift there too. That is why, I mean, you and I have had many conversations to know where my priorities really lie and how redeemable I think that Washington, D.C. is. But as far as opportunities like this, I want it to be like fucking Killdozer out of the gate. I want it to be, whatever. But with this, the most important thing about this election was how everybody was able to, it was pretty much a signal flare. I feel like it was just everybody who at one point, maybe even 4 or 5, 8 years ago, thought that, man, we're just squeaking by here, and I feel like we're on the cusp of irrelevance, and our own government has triggered this invasion of our country to be able to completely undercut us democratically, and what if we slip into the minority forever? And then all of a sudden, I mean, did you ever think we'd win I mean, you probably did. I never thought that we'd win a popular vote again because of the way that they run these elections. I thought it's okay. Right. Well, thank God we have the Electoral College, which was the only real thing that matters. But this was so resounding in the way that people threw off this culture of self-censorship. It's becoming so, people are less and less hindered to just speak their mind, even if it doesn't result in any discernible difference in their checkbook. People's hearts can't be shackled anymore. And this was like an itch.
In the popular vote, Frank, it was cool to vote for Trump. That's why they voted. People were like, I want to be able to go to work tomorrow and say I voted Trump.
Exactly.
It didn't matter if they were in Illinois. Didn't matter if they're in California. They wanted to go to work and be like, I voted for the boss. And they were going to go, they wanted to be able to say, I went down swinging no matter what happened. And what ended up happening is they swamped the vote. He won resoundingly, won every single swing state, and racked up millions of votes among people that normally wouldn't vote for him. And he won. And then they kept the House and the Senate, and they gained the Senate. So, I think that all he has to do now, Frank, and this is the best part, because it's Donald Trump, and we already saw him do it once. All he has to do is deliver. All he has to do is deliver on the economy, deliver on the border, and then anything else that Elon Musk does, which people don't even understand the full scope of that. Okay, so I saw what budgets they're cutting 6 months ago. Before Elon knew the number, I knew the number. Because I'm attached to some of the people, and I know a lot of the people that are working on cleaning up the government. And I knew the numbers. I was like, holy crap, they found 1.6 trillion they're going to lop right off the top.
Wow.
It was a huge number. And then I understood, and I know how they're going to drain the swamp. And so, so Elon's out here touting it, and him and Ramaswamy are talking about it. But I think that all he's got to do is deliver. If he delivers on lower energy prices, it will turn into lower inflation. And then if he delivers on peace with Russia, Ukraine, and then certainly with any other Middle Eastern issues, and he secures the border, you're pretty much you're good. But the thing is his this time around, his platform is so ambitious, Frank, and he's serious about it. It's not, and he knows exactly how to implement it this time, which is probably why you're seeing the absolute terror coming out of DC and from the political class, is because they know there's not a method or a means that they can implement to stop him this time. All the smart ways they think they're going to do it, even right now. And I talked about this on my show, Frank. You've got Elon Musk promising sitting U.S. senators, I will put millions of dollars into every one of your primary races and bury you. And he's right. It'll work. They will put together that turnout the vote strategy that they did already for Trump. They will implement the same exact strategies they did for Trump, but with a massive financial donation from Elon Musk. And the senators that try and screw with Donald Trump's presidency are going to get removed. They're going to lose, as sure as I'm sitting in front of you. Well, and it's going to be hilarious.
Not only that, but when you think about the efforts that have to go into getting a person even competitive for a presidential run, compared to being able to concentrate all of your efforts in one solitary state on one solitary race, if you have the convenience of being able to focus in on that, that's huge. But you know what? Here's a big thing, because when you talk about peace, and when you talk about energy, and when you talk about the border, I'm all for it. It sounds fantastic. But, and I know that you don't like people. I've seen you lash out, say I'm going to lose friends if I have to listen to people with their problems with the nominations and all that stuff. I like I said, I want Killdozer, man. So when I see Marco Rubio for state, I'm thinking, please let this be sleight of hand. When I see that ridiculous, Surgeon General pick, even though who cares about the Surgeon General for the average person? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things here that I wonder what are we looking at? What the hell happened with Matt Gaetz? Why did he resign Congress?
Oh, Frank. Okay. So, all right, let me think how I'm going to take this. So we'll start with the first, because there's some stuff you and I will have a conversation at some point, but not on camera. But some stuff I can lay out for you. So, like, number one, and I said this on my show earlier, his coalition was not conservatives this time, and that's what everybody has to get really comfortable with. Donald Trump brought in moderate Democrats. This is a populist party. So some of these candidates are going to trigger you or bother you or be completely contradictory to what you want. But you have to realize, in order to win the presidency, he had to open up the tent to a larger coalition of people that would be part and have a say in this government. And I'm totally fine with that, because I'm all about, I want everybody in there arguing and finding the best idea. Now, the thing with Trump is we never have to get too married to any one person inside of his administration, because he'll fire them if they don't do what he wants, right? So, like, Trump isn't somebody that's like, oh, God, I'm stuck with so-and-so now. I wish I could have made a better pick. He's like, you suck, you're fired, and that's it. Like, he'll remove them. With that being said, there's a lot of people, Frank, that I came to hold opinions of in a positive light that after getting inside this world, I no longer hold positive views of. There's also people who I held negative views of that upon further review inside the box, inside this world, you realize they had a path to coming back. Like J.D. Vance being a prime example, a guy that was like a never Trumper and dogged on Trump, thought it was funny that, it was great to make fun of Trump. And then he was like, you go, can we really trust the guy who used to not like Trump and thought he was this, that, and the other? He was a never Trumper. And then you're like, holy smokes, he's the real deal. And he actually is the real deal. So there's certain characters that are redeemable in ways that you might not know. And there's also people that you like. One of the most tricky things that the swamp does, bro, they'll leverage good people who have no way out of that leverage for a time. And then public narrative is built around those people. And we adopt that public narrative based on what they have presented. And then once those chains are removed, the real person is able to actually come out. And nobody does freeze people quite the way Donald Trump does. So there are people on this campaign that I can tell you are much more salt of the earth than they probably are given credit for. And they're probably going to do a much better job than most are thinking, because they are not fixed position swamp creatures. Okay. Now, I don't know I see the Surgeon General thing was a big deal. Like, she went on Fox or something and said some stuff about pro-censorship, about vaccines, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. And then she was pro-vax or some. Is that the big hang up? Like, what's the real hang up here? Can you give me like a really quick rundown on why people have a giant? On her in particular, yes, there's a censorship aspect to it, but it's also she was one said that the shots were a gift from God, and even okay. So hold on, let's stop there though. Okay. So like, we have a segment of the population that definitely always oppose the shots, right? Guys like you and me. And then you have a segment of the population that had, and it's a smaller segment, but had really bad adverse reactions to the shot and family members attached to that. But then there's still a segment of this population that took this jab and had no ill effects and went about their life believing that they did not get COVID or didn't get a deadly form of it, potentially because of the jab. Like, there's all these different belief sets, right? And this person was a doctor who I think, at least in my opinion, a lot of doctors I think are going to lean that way at the outset. Now, I don't know how married to the gift from God. I mean, Trump's used that same exact vernacular. So I don't know that. I think in a campaign, it's a fairly common rhetoric. And I think if you're a doctor and you think, and most doctors already have sort of an innate God complex, it sort of stands to reason that they're going to, if they believe it works for whatever reason, they're going to stand on that and be passionate about it. and sell it in a way that's obviously fucking over the top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just, again, the thing with the jab and stuff, the reason it doesn't ever hang up with me is I'm like, I'm a consumer, you're a consumer. You had the fucking responsibility and the rights to do your own research. And you chose to do it and you researched it. You came to your own conclusion about whether you were an appropriate person to take the risk. And if you took the risk and you had a bad reaction, you were supposed to have done the due diligence on what you put in your body.
Yeah, but Dilley,
I just...
Dilley, this is the one thing that, and hey, listen, I'm a 3-time Trump voter now. Okay?
Right.
And this is one thing where when he announced I think I was reading the announcement for the Surgeon General pick, he even put it in the announcement that, something about the shot that saved however millions. And like, okay, well, if everybody else could do the research, how can he still be stonewalled from what everybody has been digging up for the last couple of years? And if that's the case, like, why?
But I don't think the research has been conclusive.
It's still been so bad, what's been brought up, that the water is muddy enough to why even mention it anymore. It was still the only time I've ever seen him get even a smattering of booze at and I'm just, this is a head scratcher. But let's move away from this for a second because what you were saying before, and I know exactly two people that you might have been talking about, as far as you had low opinions of, and now maybe you have warmed up to them.
Right.
I know that as recently as earlier this year, you were not on board with anything that had to do with RFK or Tulsi Gabbard, and now we're talking Director of National Intelligence Gabbard and Director Kennedy at HHS. So those people, in my respect, if I analyze them too, and I have, on their own, running their own campaign, I'm like, okay, they're decent on free speech, decent on non-interventionism around the world, but they're nothing but they're way left of Trump. They're way left of Trump. Right. But again, here you go. Now in specific roles from a coalition standpoint, I see that. And there's a redemption arc there. I do not see a redemption arc forming for Marco Rubio. He's a guy who, along with Victoria Nuland, laid out the groundwork for Russian bioterrorism false flags in Ukraine on live television not too long ago. So, and the fact that Adam Schiff likes him for a pick, that makes a lot of people want to vomit into their lap. Yeah.
Look, Marco Rubio, first term, voted with Trump 96% of the time.
Okay.
Voted against impeachment. He's a loyalist. I also think that Rubio, here's the thing that's kind of funky. This is kind of going back to what I was saying about people not having chains on them anymore. Whatever Marco Rubio's default is as a person, as a politician, and whatever he thinks he can be in the future, is now completely in the hands of Donald Trump. So having him as Secretary of State is literally going to make or break whether Rubio has a future in any capacity in politics. And it's Donald Trump that holds that now. So I don't feel that there's a risk, because here's your risk. Rubio crosses you, and he pisses you off, and you shit can him in 6 months, and Marco's out of politics forever.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Like, that's literally, he rolled the dice. He was never going to lose the Senate seat in Florida, ever, Frank. He was going to be there until he was Chuck Grassley's age, because the Latino vote's only growing in Florida. So Rubio clearly is not a dumbass. So if you're taking the Secretary of State job with Donald Trump and you're leaving one of the most secure Senate seats in the entire country, and he's still a younger guy, right? Like, Rubio's like, what, 50s, 60?
Yeah. No, he's younger than 60.
Okay, so he's like probably early 50s, somewhere in there, right? I don't
Probably.
know. Find this out. All right, so this is where we can kind of logic through it. Rubio is not a risk to Donald Trump. If he gets cute, he's out on his ass, dude. And I don't think that Marco Rubio wants to be out on his ass. As a matter of fact, I think Marco Rubio believes that the only person that can make sure he even has a future into politics is Donald Trump. Thus, I believe he's going to carry out any Trump agenda that he wants. There's other factors we have to weigh.
No, it's a good point.
Part of it is the age of a candidate, where they're at in their career, and also what have they really shown. And I'll tell you, Rubio, has been completely all about Trump for years now, years. And I'm not even a fan. Like I thought, I was hoping for somebody different. I was very public in my support of Rick Grenell. That was my choice. I think he would have made a hell of a Secretary of State. But I wasn't surprised by the Rubio pick at all. I was like, because I've seen him at all the campaign. He's there. He's always campaigning for Trump. He worked his ass off. And then I just looked at it, back, like kind of in reverse, and you realize like he doesn't really got anywhere to go, but in the direction of Donald Trump, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And that's why like these guys don't scare me. You're also dealing with a different Trump too. Like you can't even project the past administration into this one because the past one, he knew there was a second term coming. This one, he's like,
it's all, yeah.
I will, this is it, baby. I'm like riding off into the sunset.
This is what I was most excited about from the prospect going into 2020, even though right now I am actually grateful that we had that 4-year hiatus. As sucked,
weird to say, huh?
Hindsight being 2020. This was, I think, as far as galvanizing intestinal fortitude and will and all that stuff. But okay, so then there's a great point right there. As far as another thing that changed from then till now, outside of the cabinet picks, let's go down the chain to where the swamp really gets deep and faceless. That's the big thing. Because we're talking about all the big names right now, but the faceless aspect of it, what always brings up for me again is this idea, back to Trump's desire to draw down our forces in Syria years ago. And not only did the Pentagon ignore him, but they hid troop placement, intel about where our troops even were, so there would be no way that he could even pass the order along. What do you think, or what can you tell us about the game plan going forward in dealing with the bureaucratic stabs in the back?
This is probably one of the only questions I can't answer because I actually do know exactly how it's going to get addressed.
Fuck. Come on, man. Okay, never mind.
I can't. I mean, like literally, I can't because it is. I know how they're going to address it, and how do I say it? Let me try to think of a way I can word it to you. Okay, so we'll put it like this, Frank, and I'll leave it. It'll be fairly vague. Money makes the world go round for everything, and when you understand the levers that allow people to exist and you understand exactly where they come from and you have the ability to eliminate it, they no longer have the ability to implement any of their bullshit. And so I can tell you, as somebody that knows the people, like on a very personal level, that are that have been tasked with rooting this out, there is a very, very specific and, dare I say, inevitable plan that will be executed that will not, there's not going to be a swamp workaround with it. You either got funding or you don't.
Oh, okay.
And when you don't got shit. You don't have a voice in D.C. You don't have a say in anything geopolitically. You don't have a pot to piss in. And I can tell you that there is a very specific way that they're going to clean up the swamp and truly drain it. And it's so simple. It's actually funny. And how they, it's all, but the hardest part is going through and auditing and finding where all that money's coming from.
Yeah.
And then once you identify it and you know exactly what you need to do from an executive standpoint to turn that faucet off, it dries up real quick, man.
Oh man, see, now you're getting me like hot because when you think I'm like the anti-hoarder, I'm the opposite of a hoarder. I love walking into a room like, what the fuck can I throw out? I want to throw everything out. Will you tell me that I get to just cut spending? I'm like, please, I would just get. Right. I mean, it's just so easy, especially since we have the Constitution. If it has nothing to do with Article 1, Section 8, it goes. And that's just the whole thing. So I don't know what I'm expecting up front, but when you start talking about just finding $1.6 trillion in the couch cushions that could go, the first thing I think about is whenever that first spending bill comes up in 2025, if there's nearly or over $2 trillion missing from the previous bill, Are they going to have every single Republican in lockstep voting to pass this thing? Are they going to get in? Are they going to get? I'm telling you, the Republican Party, like you said, I know they can all get primaried and shit, but they don't have the greatest of leads or majorities, but they have something workable.
There is a lot to be done, Frank, outside of Congress.
Okay.
And I will just leave it that way. There is a lot to be done from a financial leverage, and a power leverage standpoint that will never have to involve the Congress. And that's the part where you just have to know how the government operates and where it's being funded from and whether or not you have domain over certain aspects of it. And so these guys, they're going to play their game. Congress is going to do what Congress does. I have probably the lowest opinion of Congress of anybody. I just think it's a complete joke. But I will just tell you that there is enough there that they're going to do. There's going to be a really funny campaign, and you can already, actually, this I could talk about because you can already see it ramping up. So Elon Musk and Vivek have already started the public branding of, like, have we ever seen, Frank, people more excited to watch Americans get laid off than these guys teasing?
No, not me.
Right? They're like, we're going to do a podcast about who we fired this week. Like, it sounds funny, but it's the truth. They're literally going to be doing a podcast centered around laying off American workers. And on its face, it sounds bad, but the truth is these are leeches. Most of these people don't do any work. They don't come into work. And they're already building public opinion, rallying around the total and complete demolishment of this entire sort of lazy, bureaucratic, overly, who the hell wants to fly right now? No one wants to travel. It's terrible. It's the worst it's ever been. And I flew like 2 weeks after 9/11, and it's still worse. And people are like, they're paying more than they ever have to travel for the worst experience they've ever had. We've got more weird issues with our planes and different crap going on. Delays are the worst they've ever been. So there is already a public desire to see massive change. And also, I think the working class citizen, the average Joe, is so fed up with their uncle or their cousin that's in government. And every time they're broke and can't feed their family, their government fucking family members oh yeah, the government covered this for me. I'm going down to get this done next. I'm getting some work done. Government's covering it. And you're like, dude, I'm the taxpayer. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows people like this. They're like, why are you at home today? Isn't it a work day? They're like, oh yeah, we just have meetings today on Tuesdays. They let us work from home. It's just a quick 30-minute in the meeting in the morning, and then I'm free the rest of the day. Everyone knows government people like this. And so there's already public support to eliminate these people. So once the workarounds and the solutions are sort of laid out, there's not going to be any blowback, dude. It's going to be like, bye.
Well, okay. So as far as blowback, what about permanence? I'm going to give you a couple. Let's do lightning round because I know. Are you running out of time? Yeah. What kind of time do you have?
No, we're good, dude. I already cleared up my night to hang out with you, Frank.
Okay, shit. Okay, great. Okay, so then permanence. It's one thing to say, especially under the executive branch, you have a little bit more leeway there. You can size things down on your own, whatever. But as far as making these changes, these cuts, the slimming down and the dismantling of these bloated, the agencies and everything else like that, how do you make it permanent? And we're not playing a game where somewhere down the line, a Democrat gets into the White House again and maybe has a congressional majority or just one house or two, whatever. And they're just not erasing Trump's name in the sand and writing their own in there and hiring people back. And all that stuff. Right. Well, so what about permanence? Real quick on that, because I want to throw you a couple other things.
Well, I actually can't speak to the specifics on from a, I guess from a political sort of inner knowing, because I'm not that good with it, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know which parts you need Congress to get rid of and which parts you can do from executive fiat versus which parts you can just simply rework the government itself. So I don't want to speak to that. Here's what I can say, though. And here's and this is clear. This is just me speculating. So this is not inside information of any kind. In my opinion, if you can make moves, whether it's just executive or not, and if you're able to succeed in Trump's 4 years, if you do these two things, if you're able to produce the result the American people want, and they know about the result, which is a totally different conversation, but let's say you produce the result that they all wanted, or majority of your voters all wanted at least, and probably even people that voted against you but didn't know they wanted what you're about to give them, right? Which is like economic prosperity, peace, and all that kind of good stuff. Here's the sales pitch. If the Republican Party can succeed during Trump's administration and have an effective messaging campaign to make sure everybody knows they succeeded, I think by the time a Democrat takes control of the executive branch again, there will have been so much change happening. Like, I don't think Donald Trump's presidency is just about Trump. It's about also more than likely setting up a legacy, a run of America First candidates for consecutive presidential administrations. And during that time period is where you probably get permanence via the actual vote.
The culture, too.
Right? Because it starts with the culture. And if the culture accelerates during victorious times. So if Trump is having victory, it reinforces the decision by the culture, which had just shifted, for having made the decision. And so I think this run could last longer, Frank. And I think during that run is where you can take what might be temporary measures and turn them into permanent action at a higher level. Does that make sense?
It does. So then in that respect, what are these spoken out loud rumors about the income tax? Is this serious? Okay, there's the shit eating grin over there. Please say it's so.
Yeah, there's legs on that. Yeah, there's legs on that.
Please.
That is he go, oh, no tax on tips. And then like 2 weeks later, he's like, no tax on overtime. How you like that? And then it was like, dude, we shouldn't tax first responders either. And then he was like, why are we taxing people on their Social Security? And then like 2 weeks before the election, he's like, maybe I just get rid of the taxes. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
really.
And
he's leading the country in a direction that it's introducing an idea that not only what if I can give you a better country for less money, and it doesn't include the federal government reaching into your pocket and taking your hard-earned cash. And that is one hell of a sales pitch, because all the wokest crap in the world is never going to get you an election where Donald Trump and the Republicans get rid of the federal income tax.
No.
That's probably a 25 to 30-year run for Republicans if that happens.
Well, this is a gateway to independence again. People
liberty.
Liberty. That's the whole thing. Liberty, independence. People always, in especially the political messaging in this country coming from the left, it's always about freedom. And of course, freedom. I mean, my 4-year-old has freedom, but when it comes to eating and when it comes to everything else, I mean, I'm the government. So the whole difference between freedom and independence, I mean, they don't, we know this for a long time, but they don't, those in control don't want wildly independent people. So that's one thing that I was hoping was not just
Well,
campaign.
Here's another thought I want to give to you, okay? Because remember, one of the biggest things they hated about Donald Trump, the first administration, is every day you had to wake up and work, right? Like if you were a congressman and you slept in, you might sleep through Donald Trump destroying your career in the morning, right, with a tweet. So Trump raised the bar for what the American public expected of an elected official. And I would argue, Frank, the reason that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris lost this election and would have lost it to any Republican was because everybody was going to judge Biden and Kamala's presidency against the previous 4 years of things getting done. And so when you set an expectation for a collective, it's really, really hard to walk that back. And they couldn't do it. And they couldn't bamboozle it either because social media everyone was too overt with how disgusted they were with what was going on. There was every day was a new loss in some way. There was some new thing where, oh, we lost more troops. Oh, somebody got bombed. Oh, the price of freaking gas went up again. Oh, great. Look at groceries. Oh my God, eggs are $12 a dozen. So like when a collective, and this is the part where the American public is so critical, when you have an expectation for your leadership that's way up here and you don't compromise on it, you can wear them out. You can win. Where you lose is when you agree to drop your expectations lower and lower because you're demoralized. When you let them demoralize you, they gain power in perpetuity. So one of the things that should make everybody watching this super excited, look what Elon Musk did with social media when he fired 80% of the employees at X. Now, were there hiccups? Of course. But did he work through them? Yes. Is it better now than it's ever been? Absolutely. Like, hands down, the platform works better than it has since at least 2013, 2014 when I was on there. And it's freer than I can ever remember it. And this is the thing. What kind, like, look, think of the men we're talking about here. Elon Musk was like, we're going to go to Mars. And like 10 years ago, people were still not taking SpaceX seriously. 10 years later, we're watching this dude launch and reuse rockets over and over again and catching them with giant hands like it's craziest thing I've ever seen. And so you've got these men of ambition who are completely sold on, they want to etch their legacy into mankind, forget America, into mankind as being these pillars of the renaissance of the human spirit. And this is how you do it. It's through liberty. You have to fix all of this cataclysmic, terrible crap. And this actually leads me to the RFK pick. I don't like that guy for any other job, but this one, this one job, I'm like, it's the one job that I'm like, that guy, if he can ride off in the sunset and say, I fixed the food industry and the drug industry in America, he will end up going down with his his uncle and his dad and like the rest of the family. He will go down as a legend because right now he's nothing. Yeah, I don't want to be mean, but he's nothing. He hasn't held office of any significant, done anything. He's tied himself to a few trees over the years saying he wanted to save the rainforest or whatever, but not really enough of significance. And that guy now has all of the incentive to dump every ounce of his effort and mind into this one thing, because by the time he's done doing it, it will have reshaped what will happen in America for decades in a good way. Yeah. And I think there's other members of this cabinet that are going to do the same thing. Oh, including Elon. It's definitely the most. I'm most excited about that element here, and the Make America Healthy Again thing. It is, as the old saying goes, if you don't have your health, you have nothing. And amen, dude. I mean, it's enormous. So I'm really, really excited about that. Which is why we smoke cigars, right, Frank? Absolutely. Well, listen, you need to have a cigar from time to time. What the hell, bro? I'll tell you. Absolutely. It's part of staying even keeled. Exactly. I mean, you don't want to be too healthy, Frank. That could probably be bad too. It also depends on where you're getting your tobacco. You think about tobacco as a healthcare product. It's when you start smoking all the fiberglass there. But anyway, we'll talk about that. Exactly. We'll talk about that some other night. But here, because you just said going, Frank. Social media's role in not allowing the political class to wiggle away anymore, especially since Twitter got away from, it was that one spoke on the bicycle wheel. They had everything from Facebook. I mean, you think about it, it was theirs. Facebook, Meta, whatever, Instagram, right. Reddit, everything. And Twitter was just one of those spokes, and probably one of the most powerful one too. Yep. And now we have this. Here is, and I know you've seen this, the new CEO at Axios, the Axios Powers. He melts down over Elon Musk telling users on X, on Twitter, that you are the media now. And let's just listen to this together for those of you at home who have not seen it yet. Let me put Dilley up here where is he? There you go. Okay, let's take a listen to this.
Everything we do is under fire. Elon Musk sits on Twitter every day, or X today, saying like, we are the media, you are the media. My message to Elon Musk is, bullshit, you're not the media. You having...
And the fucking weenies who are clapping. What a room full of weenies.
Right.
You having a blue check mark, a Twitter handle, and 300 words of cleverness doesn't make you a reporter. You don't do that by popping off on Twitter. You don't do that by having an opinion. You do it by doing the hard work.
Hard work, Dilley. Very. By the way, do you know? I just saw this recently. I think it was Patrick Bet David I saw it from, that MSNBC and CNN's ratings were recently beaten by the Hallmark Channel.
Yeah. Yeah. So this guy, so this is fun. So I want to point this out because this is really important. We're living the meme, Frank. So remember the meme was meme them until they cry and then meme them crying? We are memeing him crying right now. We memed him until he fucking cried. And then we waited for him to lash out from the tears. And then now we meme him harder because he cried like a bitch. So we're living the memes. And these people, there is no coming back from that. Like, what is that guy going to do to attract an audience that can compete with people being like, dude, I'm on the verge of ratioing. Okay. I'm like this close to ratioing Mark Cuban right now, bro. He finally tweeted. Okay. He quote tweets Elon Musk to be a prick tonight. And I reply to him and I go, you got fired from a volunteer job, loser. And I'm like right there. I'm like, we're right there. But that's the world we're in now. And they don't like it. They don't like that that the world is that simplistic now.
Yeah.
They hate it.
I know the decentralization is incredible, and it's happening. But let me ask you this real quick. I have this, and then I have another question, and then we can wrap up. I don't want to take you all night. I know.
It's all good, dude. Whatever you got for me, let's go.
How far do you think the free speech agenda on the internet is going to go? Because as much as I hate how censorship is part of the business model, it's still a majority private business model, and for as much as much as people have praised Elon Musk in getting, is getting from, or as much as Elon Musk is getting praise from people like Trump right now around the world, there's still shadow banning going on Twitter, there's things like that. But we hear about internet bills of rights, and I'm always very weary of any kind of government intervention on a market issue. And like you said before, when we talk about culture, the culture has to shift toward wanting free speech. Yes. If people they start getting cozy inside of these little, pampered echo chambers, then they're going to want the controls because they don't want to see anything other than what makes them feel good. But I think that the culture is shifting in that respect, but there's still a lot of talk about what can be done with holding social media companies accountable. What can be done without actually infringing upon private business matters?
So that's a tough one, right?
Yeah.
I think that in this regard, so there's two parts of that, right? So I think one of them, we still have to address that social media companies are exempt or whatever, right? So they can't be, what is it? They can censor you. Like what was it Frank, they had signed in, was it 2012? Where they couldn't be held liable.
The 230.
Section 230.
Yeah.
But the agreement of Section 230 was, we won't hold you liable, but you also have to allow free speech. And the social media companies violated that section of 230, which is
it's because they have essentially by the way that they are running the platforms, and it has nothing even to do with terms of service, because as you know, on YouTube, YouTube has the most vague terms of service, and they leave it vague.
It's arbitrary.
Exactly. Right. So there was like an arbitrary editorializing kind of way.
Correct.
And in that respect, that is the claim that a lot of people have said, that they're forfeiting their 230 protections by becoming editors and the main arbiters of what people can talk about in a non-criminal way. Again, it's not criminal to say insensitive things or to take a hot take on a controversial issue. It's criminal to harass somebody or to expose some private information. So that's
So here's
wonder
what I
about
think
that.
then. So I'm going to give you a very, you're going to like this. It'll be a very Ron Paul answer. You ready?
Yeah.
This is, so what we're going to do is, and this is where we, the collective people, can dictate how this goes forward. If like, and this, it sounds crazy. I'm not trying to be out here like stump speeching for Elon, but if you want free speech to become the default situation on any existing social media or forthcoming social media company, the best way to do that is to show that it's successful. So if Elon Musk, and this is why I've said this to all my people on my show, please sign up for premium on X. It's $12 a month or $14 a month or $20 a month if you want the good one. It's worth it. We owe it to him and to ourselves to prove having free speech is good for business. Because at the end of the day, eventually, like the amount of radical idealists, Frank, is actually really small. Mostly it's just a bunch of greedy assholes that take the shortest route possible to maximum wealth. So in this case, if you believe this, I tell people this too, like, you love my show, subscribe to it. There's no better way to make sure I can't be censored and that I can't be deplatformed than making sure that I have the financial resources to defend myself, right? And that goes for you as well. Your voice and your vote is with your money and your attention. And so this is how I think you do it. You show, like, if Elon Musk at some point is able to show a valuation on X of greater than $44 billion, when everyone said it was only worth $9 billion or $10 billion when he bought it and he overpaid and yada, yada, yada. The way that you make this, because there's two, like, I'm like you, Frank. I don't like the idea of the state having to get involved to govern this shit because it's so clear cut. Freedom of speech, like, right there it is. But then private industry, but then we're marketing ourselves as like a platform for communal discussion, and it's a gray area, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, Elon's got the right idea, which is if you're not breaking any state or federal laws, I'm going to allow it. And that's just how I'm going to do it. Now, whether there's still issues with the algorithm, there is. I know why some of that is. I know why. I also don't know why some of it is. But I know it's a constant work in progress. But the whole, in my opinion, is prove the free market and prove Elon right. And you support his brand and you support brands that are closely aligned with that. And you will see more people want to mimic it. And the reality is he's the cool kid now, man. Like, how do you can't hate on, he's the richest man in the world, and he's also arguably one of the most popular from just like regular people are like, dude, like, they're aspiring to that. Like, they're like, that guy is so cool. He plays video games like me, he talks on his headset like me. He's an incredibly relatable richest man in the world. I mean, he's about the furthest thing we've had from Bill Gates, right? Like, have we ever had a richest man in the world that's this sort of like, I don't want to call him normal, but just kind of like, he's a nerd, but a bro. And I feel like that there's a lot of crossover appeal. This guy's like super accessible. He shit posts. He likes the same memes we do. I got that fucker to laugh last year. I couldn't believe he replied to me, dude. I got an Elon Musk reply last year. I was like, ooh.
I think I remember that too. It's very big event when somebody I know gets some kind of a hat tip like that. But it's happening more and more. And yeah, he has definitely thrown himself into the mix of this in a way that has been I don't know, that nobody else in his position can really pull it off. He's made it work.
Think
for
of him, right? But think of this, Frank. Like, and I don't want to be crass, but you know me, I'm a basics guy, dude. He's out here talking about, like, he's like, hey, you need to fuck more, like have more children, and you're like, dude, that's like a man's man. He's like, dude, you have more kids, raise a family. It's awesome. He's like pushing these tenets, but then he's also funny. So like when I say he's normal, I'm like, bro, he's very transparent about the things that drive him. He's curious about the stars, so he's building crap up there. He wants to do cool stuff down here, likes to go fast, so his cars are all like ridiculously fast. He wants to have he's like, you want to have lots of children. It's going to be, make it better for the earth. It also makes you better as a person, which, you as a parent, that brings you to a better level as a human being. And then he's still out here, has a sense of humor about him and a levity. So I think that's kind of what I think there's a lot of aspirational characters coming out of the Trump 2024 campaign. And I think that's a really good thing. But I think that's the ultimate sales pitch, man. Just let the free market, just as long as they are upholding free speech to some degree and they're learning their ways with it, I think that you're going to have other other industries want to copy what he has done, because people not just want the money. I think they want the admiration that he's receiving. I think before, tech guys kind of took pride in being like disliked. It was almost like they were vindictive nerds. And I think Elon's changed that a little bit to show that the rest of the world is totally accepting of like tech nerds, and they will root for you if you are sort of like supportive of regular people that you might not otherwise relate to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have quite a few friends who are all split on what maybe the ultimate intention could be, and what the fallout of a lot of the technology that we've thrown ourselves into really is in the long run. Whether or not he is Lex Luthor or something else. But where we are right now, the position we're in right now, is, I mean, if it was any different, if the election had turned out in any other way, I have a greater sense of optimistic. I don't know. I'm always going to be optimistic. You have to be. You have to go out there and just work and ply your trade. But the launch point that we have right now going into 2025, there's opportunity that I couldn't have even thought about, and it makes everything else.
See, Frank, that's what makes you a good dude. See, that right there is humility and in a sincere assessment, because there's a lot of people, probably a lot of people in your chat too, that are by default, like prior to this election, and I can't even tell you how many people, I used to get this every day. He can't win. They're not going to let him win. That was the thing they used to, oh, he can't, they're not going to let him. They're not going to let him. They're not going to let him. That was, everyone used to say that shit to me. And I was like, watch, we have a plan. It was like, not only is he going to win, I even told everybody, and the video's out there right now. I told everybody 8 months ago, not only is he going to win, he's going to win on election night. It will be over. You will wake up and have a president. And even in the weeks leading up to the election, they tried to blackpill everybody and be like, this is going to take days and weeks to count. We might not know who the president is for weeks. And I was like, he's going to win that night, and it's going to be over. And most people who were dead ass wrong about that reality won't even stop. They just move on to the next thing to be scared about or be fearful of or fucking negative about. They won't stop and go and eat their shit sandwich. See, you got to eat the shit sandwich, because that's how you learn humility. But there's people, even right now, that are spewing negative crap about what's coming down the pipeline, and they never stop to go, I was totally wrong about all that negative shit that I had said prior to this moment, but now I want you to buy more of my negative crap. It's like they don't even pause. They just keep going with it, almost like habitually. The reality is, we witnessed 2 miracles this year. We witnessed a man come within about 1/8 of an inch of having his brains blown out in front of the whole fucking world, and he turned his head and lived and got a flesh wound on the ear. And you watched the impossible election rigging that we thought we could never. We watched Joe Biden manufacture 15 million additional votes to steal an election. And you came back 4 years later with Democrats in full control of all of the levers of power. And we still fucking beat them. And how anybody can be faithless after that is completely beyond me, bro. I don't get it.
Let me ask you this, especially now that, especially now that we are almost at the end of at least the last couple of states counting a month later. But whenever they end up, the counting ends, there's going to be that deficit of 8 to 9, 9.5, 10 million votes. And of course, the Blue Anon crew out there, they like 48 hours after the election, they concocted an idea that all of Elon Musk's Starlink satellites were stealing the votes, and where did the extra 10 million go, and all that stuff. But as you see, I mean, like, what prevented? I mean, obviously there was no preventing. Actually, no, that's not true. They lost a lot of House and a lot of in Congress as well. But I just wonder if it really was just a physical presence of all the poll workers and the lawyers, and like what was really the levee that did not break, that they couldn't go the extra mile. Was it really just about not being able to rely on the mail that much? What do you think really was the dagger through the heart as for the missing 10 million?
I think it's 2 parts, man. I think the one part is you had active, legitimate lawyers in key swing states that were actively involved in legislating this thing and making sure in fighting like hell, like literally fighting, especially in Pennsylvania, right? And in Georgia too. They tried to pull crap in Georgia. So the first part, I believe, was the legal effort to have legitimate legal minds on the ground that knew what to do in those situations. I think there was a heavy, heavy interest from the electorate that were highly, highly vigilant about what they were watching and were having to match up and deal with. Okay, that's the first and easiest parts. Here's the second part. And I said this leading into the election. When your henchmen haven't been able to afford groceries for 2 years, it's really fucking hard to get them to carry out your agenda. So when you starve your base, your main people you rely on for doing illegal, scandalous crap, and so not only are they like, dude, they left me in the cold after the last election, and then furthermore, the new guy that's coming back is not only selling ideas that are benefiting my friends and family, he's also letting me know I'm going to arrest every one of you that did that crap last time. He knows what we did. So I think that there's a combination of like, they just didn't have that energy, Frank. I think there was people that were, and you know what it is, dude? I think what the Democrats finally learned in an election is that not all Democrats are communists, and they tried to convince themselves that they were all communists and they would go along with this. And I think there was a whole bunch of Democrats that went, I'm not a Republican and I don't like Trump, but I'm not that. Whatever the fuck that is, I'm not that.
I don't know if Rich Barris brought this to the public, but he probably did. But he had this very specific example that he brought to my show about a week after the election. He was talking about these very reliably blue counties where there's only a couple of people in it, or districts where there's a very, very small amount of people in it. And it went so hard to Trump. And we were talking about the situation where I said, you know what's going on there. I bet you any money that people in these smaller communities that are very, very loyally Democrat, whatever, they probably all just quietly voted for Trump. And the next day saw that their districts went bright red, and they're wondering how many people around me actually did the same thing. And they're probably wondering, how do I bring this up with my friends to see who else did what I did? Because it's just, like you said, they think, they tried to project communism, price controls, the deconstruction of the human genome. They tried to, I mean, it's all of it. It's incredible what was attempted, but I can see that's a really great point that you made. Actually, both those points, part one and part two, and I can see that it's hard to recruit your help at the end of it. So, as far as prosecuting crimes goes, let me ask you another big hot
Please,
issue.
lay it on me.
FBI nominee. Who the hell is it going to be? Everybody says the prevailing rumor is Kash Patel, but we haven't heard anything about it. I think it's really interesting that this is the last nominee that has been held from like the public as far as.
Can I ask a weird question?
Yeah.
Because you're really good with these kind of details. Why is it assumed that there's an FBI nominee? I've never heard that before. I thought when you're an FBI director, you have a set amount of years. Isn't it like 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years.
So not that I think he's definitely going to fire Christopher Wray, but
Wray said he's leaving. I think he announced his resignation.
Oh, he did?
I believe he did. Yeah.
Can he do that yet?
I mean, it's his job.
I think he maybe announced an intent to fire Christopher Wray, right? I guess what I'm saying is, like, I've never heard this discussion before about FBI directors, like, being, I don't think he did.
Let me see here. Christopher Wray preparing for possible this is November 11th, preparing for possible forced exit under Trump. I thought I heard that he was going to leave. He and Donald Trump are planning for possibility of president-elect will replace Wray. And new administration, 3 people familiar with the matter told NBC. Well, they get terms. I think that just limits them. But, I mean, he could be fired at any moment. Right. That's not like he has job security. He can tell the president to F off. But I don't know. It's just
So here's my thought on this. Because Trump, I don't believe, has weighed in on this at all.
Okay.
Like, he hasn't weighed in on it. And it actually is in his benefit to not weigh in on it. Because it's not an assumed job that he's like, oh yeah, you have to announce who your FBI director is going to be, right? We all know Christopher Wray or whoever, forget that name, any name, they assume I'm staying until, because it's very abnormal to fire FBI directors. It's not something that is extremely common. So if you're Donald Trump, in my opinion, I think now I could be totally wrong and he may announce it tomorrow and I look like an idiot. But I think that the best way to keep your people safe, and especially during this time period of transition and before you're inaugurated, is I wouldn't be in any hurry to announce any senior staff replacements at the FBI level.
Why not?
I would not tip that off at all. As a matter of fact, I would probably leave Christopher Wray right there in place for a few weeks or even a couple of months while I got into the executive branch and allowed my DOJ to start going ham. That's just that, and this is not based on anything anybody told me. I'm just telling you strategically, it makes more sense to make sure that dude is beholden to you once you get back in, so that you could potentially get some answers before he tries to bail. And also I think it mitigates, like I wouldn't want a guy that powerful to go scorched earth with a date that he knows he's going to quit or be fired. You know what I'm saying?
True. I get that, but also he could just see that the writing is on the wall.
But he could. But we don't even know what that messaging looks like. Trump could be absolutely back channel messaging to Wray and like, hey, if you'll help me clean up the swamp and clear out your own department, maybe you stay around. Like that, it would be more beneficial to float that carrot so that there's a sort of, maybe I could save my own ass kind of thing. If you're Christopher Wray, save my own legacy, whatever. I don't know. I just know that you probably wouldn't announce, like, why would you want to put a giant bullseye on little Kash Patel for like 2 months from
I could see that.
Right?
I could see, at least just getting yourself closer to the date, getting past the inauguration, and maybe
because this isn't even like FBI director is not one of the normal jobs that you have to announce for a cabinet. So that's what I'm saying is like, there's no benefit, whether it's Kash or anyone else. There's zero benefit to giving the media and the FBI a head start on that until you actually are in power and can yank that cord.
Okay. Point taken.
Does that make sense?
No, yeah, absolutely. Point taken. I got you on that.
And I think that Kash is probably not director material. I don't think he's an FBI director guy. I think he's probably investigative guy in a much more narrow scope. And I think you probably want somebody with law enforcement. Like, this is the reason. Not that I don't think he's competent. He's obviously clearly super smart. But in my opinion, you probably need somebody who absolutely is where the oath means something to them and they've done it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You want a guy or a gal that's like, I love serving this country and I believe in the rule of law and I am mortified by what they did to my FBI. That's probably your candidate, is that guy or girl, whoever that is, that's like, to hell with this. This is the worst reputation in the country. We need to clean this up. That's probably who you would want to nominate into that role. Mm-hmm. Kash, I think you turn loose as a investigator, and I think that I'm all for that. I think that he could do a phenomenal job with that.
And Matt Gaetz is special counsel.
I think that would be really funny. I think that would be really appropriate. I think that Matt Gaetz will probably end up pursuing higher office at some point. But who knows? I don't know. He's an interesting character. He really, really likes, I think, the fame side of politics, and I don't necessarily think he enjoys the bureaucracy side of it. And so I think it's just as likely that Matt Gaetz has no interest in getting back in a official cabinet role as it is that he might go, fuck it, I'm going to be the governor someday. I have no idea. But Matt Gaetz as a special counsel would be must-see TV.
That would be. And then my last question for you, I guess, would have to be, now that you're living in Florida and you've realized finally after all these years, I wasn't fucking around, that there are things living in the ocean, that there are things. Okay, USOs. We're talking about all those things that you never wanted to consider. There are off-world things that we need to consider.
Now I got to deal with this. Like, this is the reality I have to wake up to. Like, I'm like 3/4 of a mile, maybe a mile max, from like 6 beaches. Okay, like the water is very close. I am very water close. Okay, I'm very close. It's like I'm like 5 houses away from where the water comes in, right, to like the inlet and stuff. So I'm concerned, Frank, because if I start dealing with alien nonsense at this household, all right, I'm gonna have to call you to get some type of Ghostbuster-esque advice on how do I deal with. Because the ones from above, I kind of felt like I had a pretty good handle on, all right? Because I have seen a lot of movies.
But you never heard about the USOs, though.
I don't even know what the fuck a USO is, Frank. I don't even know what you keep using this term, and I don't know what that means. Is that undersea operations?
Unidentified submersible.
Oh, that's absurd. See, now you just gave me a whole nother thing I have to worry about.
Yeah, that's how they
unidentified submersible. Are you shitting me?
That's how they go from the air into the water as if they did not pass through any physical atmospheric change, because they're actually displacing the atmosphere around the objects. Whoever's piloting them, that's another story. Aliens, demons, whatever the hell it is. But I'm hoping, and I have already had several guests on to talk about this. I'll have another one on tomorrow night.
Of course you will.
I'm hoping that
you need to absolutely bone up on all this education, because we're gonna have to have a conversation.
Listen, if Donald Trump has the opportunity to be a disclosure candidate, a disclosure president on everything, from JFK to cures to hidden technology to what the hell's in our skies and in our oceans, it would be a wonderful thing for mankind. And just so you know, in case you ever have conversations with people on the inside, which I know you do, this is one of the ways that me and other guests and friends have game planned when we talk about how do you make lasting impacts. You were talking about how you make lasting policy impacts that can create several generations of take the ball, keep running. But as far as cultural impacts, because people who were following Donald Trump's campaign and voting for him were not voting, they did not become Republicans. As I was talking to Rich Barris, actually, I said, Donald Trump right now is an example of the first successful third-party run. He just happens to be running as a Republican.
That's a great point. A really good point.
It's a third party.
You're absolutely right.
It's a third party. You can't tell me that the RNC wanted him.
You're totally right. He went and got a coalition of Democrat moderates, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, to back him. And what he did was he redefined Republican. So it is a third party, but he just was like, I'm just going to take yours. So
that's what I'm talking about. And when we had brought that up, the real question from them becomes, when Donald Trump is done, and he's no longer, I mean, now constitutionally, he's no longer eligible, even though he's going to be 82 when he leaves. But when he's done, what do you do for all the people who only were following? How do you create a lasting cultural impact out there? And resoundingly, we were saying disclosure would be incredible. Disclose.
I think a combination. To answer that, I think it's a combination. I think it's tangible policy. Like if he gets enough backing and we end fucking federal income tax, like that alone is so foundationally critical, right, to liberty and to like the American dream, like on a very like granular level. Like regular people are going to feel the impact of that in such a real way. But I agree with you. I think disclosure in the lifting of the veil, he already did it with the media. He already did it with the deep state. He did it with the Republican Party. He did it with the Democrat Party. And I think it's reasonable to, I mean, hell, he's bringing in a guy, RFK, that's hell-bent on doing it with pharmaceutical, big pharma, big ag.
And also, not only that, but RFK, he has very specific interests, and I know that this happened between Trump and RFK after the assassination attempt, but he has very big interest in the, his uncle, his father, and the intelligence organizations' activities. You know, I agree. So this is huge.
I think you have to, in order to get the people to continue to allow you to govern and to buy into your ideas and to give you money and do the things they do, there needs to be a reestablishment of trust to some degree between the people and the government. And the only way you can do that is disclosure. Here we go. Now, I don't know if you could disclose everything, and I understand for some reasons there's certain things you're probably not going to be able to do, but there is a lot I feel that can be disclosed so that people are able to feel like we're not just being given congressional hearings, we're being given like legitimate closure on a lot of these parts of our lives. And so, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I agree with that.
Well, good. Hopefully, now that it's on the public record again, let's just keep rolling with it. Listen, Dilley, we almost did the whole 2 hours together, and I have to wrap up and read some super chats and all that stuff. We got to do it again in the new year.
Yes.
Obviously, enjoy the holidays. Enjoy all amazing efforts all throughout the year. It was really fun watching you cook. But other than that, send my best to the family. And if there's anything else you want to plug, let everybody know how to watch you and what comes next.
Yeah, you know me. It's just the same as usual. X, I'm a Warlord Dilley, and then on Rumble, I'm at the Dilley Show. You guys can find me pretty easily. But Frank, for you and the fam, if you are ever in need of a vacation and you want to get near the beach, dude, I got a guest room for you and the family. You're 100% always welcome. You come hang out, do some shows. Do your broadcast here if you need to, but you got a place, okay?
Nice. Well, thank you. I'll take you up on that.
Awesome. Please do. We'll smoke cigars. California will be out here. We'll all hang out, we'll do some shows, smoke some cigars, have some interesting conversations about seawater aliens.
Absolutely. No, it's gonna be real. It's gonna be a big part of your life now. But thanks again, Brenden. I'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate you, Frank.
All right, take care. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was a banner. That was a good episode. Now listen. Threw a lot out there for the purposes of knowing that I'm going to get a lot back from the audience, and I know that's something that's going to trickle in over the next couple of days. Here's what I'll say: because it's already 8:45, anything that you had tonight, please send me your comments in your emails, and I will read some of those tomorrow in the second half. I will take your calls tomorrow in the second half as well. I'll try to take a couple right now. Let me get to the super chats, though. Jay Britt says, love him or hate him, Brenden Dilley has his finger on the pulse of politics. He's a beast. That's from Jay Britz on quitefranklysuperchat.com. Over on Rumble, we have Jay Semos says, great show. I'm with you, Frank. Trump has to deliver or we are screwed. The bigger thing is that he's got 2 years. 2 years. That's why I'm talking when on January 20th, January 21st, killdozer. Like, it's got to be out of the box leveling. So, the picks, there's so much to talk about. I am not enamored with quite a few of the cabinet picks, but Dilley comes from another perspective, and he had the floor, and it's on the record. And hey, I'm grateful for any reason to be hopeful about stuff and more things to look out for, because obviously our work is already done as far as the election goes. Now everything we were doing prior to Election Day continues in our personal lives. The conversations we have, the work we're doing in our communities, that continues. Preparing for the pole shift in 20 years. Dilley just learned about the aliens. What's he going to do when he realizes that Florida is really going to be Argentina soon? He might freak out. Real Drew Morgan says, here for the Dilley, will return for the Frank. Well, thank you, Drew. It's great to have you out there. Let's see what else we got going on. Great viewership across the board. My Creative Waves is now a monthly supporter. I appreciate you, My Creative Waves. Only thing is that I do not have a Locals account. I think somebody told me that Locals is what connects with Rumble. So there's no way to give recurring monthly supporters on Rumble any of the universal perks of sponsorship, which means Sunday streams and book club, film club that is coming in 2025 and a few other things. So if you wanted to become a sponsor of the show, please go to quitefrankly.tv, or in the description below, there is a Patreon, there's a Subscribe Star. I would say go to Subscribe Star or directly through quitefrankly.tv. That's a great way to keep the show rolling. And in 2026, when the country is celebrating 250 years, this show, well, my time broadcasting, is going to be 20 years old. So I would love to have many of you on. I would love to do some fun stuff for that 20-year anniversary. I don't know what to do. It'll be fun. So become a sponsor. What else? That's all from Rumble. Let's go over to Super Chats on Pilled. Thank you, C. Blanche. Thank you, Boys Blanc, Captain Flint. Who else we got? Shit, it just bounced away from me. What's going on? Don't do this. Give me a moment. Of course. I'll bleed over a couple of minutes. Doug Simmy, C. Blanche, Boys Blanc, Captain Flint. Boys Blanc says, I don't know the interwork of Foxhole, but what would Brenden need to join? I love my 300. I don't know. Got to reach out to him. Sean, Joe, and Ginger, 45, thank you. And C. Blanche, Sean, Joe, Ginger, Sal, Stephen and Lori says, great conversation tonight. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be releasing the scratching soon, so don't go anywhere with that. Let me see. And then there's one last thing I want to check, and then we'll take your calls for the last few minutes. That's it. Good. Well, out of it. I guess we'll save some of these sound bites for tomorrow. No point in doing it now. But yeah, let's take a call. 914-200-0269. First one up. Go ahead. Caller.
Hey, Frank. It's the Sentinel.
Hey, Sentinel.
Hey, great show. Dilley is an awesome guest. He had lots of knowledge. It was so awesome just to hear him talk about how everything went in Iowa. I was so impressed with him tonight.
I'm always impressed with Dilley when he comes on to hang out with me, because he always when Dilley comes on my show, you tend to see another side of Dilley. Okay, chill. He's a lot less aggressive because we're just chilling out. Okay, and tonight I was so interested in his unique vantage point of the last 12 months because of I know how on the inside track he was, and really how effective the social media campaigning was doing, and how that's connected to so many other things too. So I was looking forward to tonight for a while now.
Well, what I called you about was you started out talking a little bit about Trump kicking the trannies out of the military. Yeah, and the big thing there is what I found out because currently still in is if a soldier enlists or is a member and then they come out and want to be a tranny, they get exempt from deployments while they go through their transition. So most of them start out with a 365-day exemption from deployment, and then it's reviewed. And if they still are having complications or still under a doctor's care, this just keeps getting bumped down the road. So it doesn't affect readiness at all because they're never freaking ready while they're going through the transition. Yeah. So it goes like it can go for 2 to 3 years until they're totally done. And if it's a 4-year enlistment, they just got tits in a badge, and then they discharge, and they're a veteran, quote unquote. So the whole thing is a fraud on against the whole idea of being part of the militia that started out was our initial defense of this country in the Militia Act of 1792, that every able-bodied man 18 to 45 buy your own fucking rifle and be ready when we call you. So that's why I'm the guard, and I totally believe that that's the basis of this country, and believe it at the bottom of my heart.
Oh, well, hey.
Good show, Frank.
No, thank you, Sentinel, and I'm with you on that. I think it's and we learned about that process a long time ago, especially with the transitions and all that stuff. It's what do you do? What do you do? You talk about attack readiness, and you're giving people, you're waiting for somebody's wounds to heal, self-inflicted wounds, and hormone therapy to help soldiers feel like they're transitioning to another sex. Soldiers. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, Lauren just sent me a picture of Aurora. She and Aurora are having a little wind down on the couch. It's 8:54 p.m., but my father-in-law marshaled all of the daughters out for a 7 o'clock dinner, which Lauren was like, oh, man, it's 7 o'clock. She's already knocking on bedtime's door. What are we going to do? I said, you know what? She took a nap. Take her. Just go. Do it. Stretch her out a little bit because Thanksgiving's coming up. Stretch her out. She'll fall asleep. Don't worry about it. And it's just crazy. I got a picture here of them hanging out on the couch and 5 to 9. I told Lauren, I said, give me a call. I said, call. Let me hear it. Let her. She said, no, not tonight. She's on the verge of a meltdown right now. She's probably really tired. 9 o'clock? Overstimulated. All right. Well, anyway, let's take another call. 985, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Frank.
Hey.
This is Southern Lady Tiger.
Hello, Lady Tiger.
You were talking earlier at the beginning of the show about the trans issue. I listened to Sentinel's call as well. But my question is, don't they realize that these people are only hurting themselves? Because the majority of the citizenry would just, it's kind of like the gay thing. Do your own thing. Just don't force it on my kids. Don't shove it in my face. And we're good.
Yeah, but Virginia, you see, here's the thing, and this is why I always said, as time went on, it was going to be one of those situations where if we win, they lose, and if they win, they eventually lose. Because what are all of these campaigns? And I'm sorry to cut off and I want to move this a little bit quicker because I only got about 5 minutes. I want to call up Chrissy Mayer real quick because she's having her 100,000 subscriber bonanza tonight. But when what you're campaigning on to either gain or maintain political power and influence in a country is less based on actual issues that affect people, when you're talking less and less about the economy and free market and ways to open up the marketplace to more participants, especially small to mid-sized businesses, to encourage entrepreneurship, to get rid of red tape, to get rid of regulation, to not dissuade somebody from wanting to go out there and earn something on their own because they know that once they start making a little, they start getting clobbered a lot. It's those things: peace, free speech, keeping the border secure, little things to create a nice, secure, free, I don't know, what do you want to call it? It's just it's just something that is going to be harboring liberty a lot more. When you can't talk about those issues, because everybody, including Republicans, that's the whole big thing here. They're all central planners. They're all central bankers. They're all drunk on foreign aid and entangling alliances and all that stuff. And it doesn't seem like that is really going to go away right off the bat, if at all, right now either. I'd love to see us get the hell out of NATO. I'd love to see us kick the United Nations out of New York, get it the hell out of here, remove our membership, start pulling all the financial aid. Stop funding, interpretive jazz dance in Nigeria, interpretive jazz dance classes in Nigeria, and this, get it all, it's gone. That would be wonderful. But, other than that, it is we're in a place right now where that has to go, and the only thing that's left is to talk about subdividing your demographics, your target demographics, into other crazy little causes. Like, what are you going to do? If you're going to differentiate yourself from a so-called Republican or a conservative, but you're all really kind of in the same zone on things, You have to create some kind of a way to make your cause one that is like a civil rights. They all want to be civil rights leaders, but there's nothing left to do. There's nothing left to do. So they go into people's personal lives and they take issues now that even 30 years ago would be considered a really delicate mental health issue that just needs to be handled by professionals. And, you know, those professionals now are actually siding with crazy moms who want to fight their ex-husbands on whether or not their young teenage boys should be transitioned into girls, which is really just genital mutilation and then hormone therapy on top of it. So it's crazy. It's crazy. When you subdivide your, you know, people and their personal issues to turn them into gigantic campaign issues about trans rights and bathrooms and all this other stuff, that does not resonate with people. It doesn't resonate with people. It's weird. It's invasive, and nobody wants to hear about it. There are people who have to deal with it, and they should be able to get good help. But we've weaponized psychiatry, and we've tried to turn this into I don't know, riveting civil rights causes in lieu of actually having something to campaign on. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. They want this all to be so riveting to people, but it's not. And then we read that article from the Telegraph about Donald Trump wants to get all the transgendered people out of the military. And it's not really making any, the only thing that makes me gasp is that there's already 15,000 people in the military who are transgendered. And they actually want to say that this would hinder our attack readiness by having people who aren't constantly managing. You know, a person who's in that situation, their body is constantly trying to fight to go back to its natural state. And there are all these physical and chemical interventions that have to constantly be maintained to just prop up the new hope, the costume. I mean, that is your body is in a perpetual fight. To be talking about that from a military standpoint is ridiculous. Anyway, all right, there was a couple of calls. We'll take more of your calls tomorrow because I want to hear more what you thought about everything that was brought up with Dilley tonight. And but to be honest, I thought Dilley was going to stay on with me from like 7:15 to maybe 8 o'clock latest. We almost did the whole 2 hours. Couldn't stop. I wasn't going to stop. As long as you kept going, I was to hell with it because we probably won't talk to him until next year. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. And for those of you who wanted a reminder, until November 30th, that means 5 days from now, if you become a Polaroid sponsor, quite frankly, which today me and Aurora were out there taking Polaroids to send out to people. You can still go in there. I think we have about a handful left on both Patreon and Subscribestar. If you become a monthly Polaroid sponsor, not only do you receive a one-of-a-kind photo in the mail every month, but you're also getting other exclusives, including stickers and bookmarks and sample. That's the big thing. You're getting a sample bag of the Quite Frankly Elevation Blend coffee this month with chocolate-covered espresso beans as a sign-up bonus. So go to Patreon or Subscribestar. The links are in the description or on the Sponsor Us page on quitefrankly.tv and become a Polaroid sponsor. We're going to have a big incentive for December coming up, but would love to see these Polaroids fly because the holiday pictures are really, really, really awesome. And I want to send out some coffee to you guys and gals. So that's that. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much to Brenden. And we'll do all the media bites that I had for tonight tomorrow as well after we're done with Ashton Forbes. So see you at 7 o'clock. Take it easy.
I'll catch you on the flip side.